My name is Rachel Morgan. I'm 35 years old. And the first thing our new CEO said after he walked into our department was, "Why does this entire operation seem to stop working when Rachel Morgan isn't here?" Nobody answered him. Not my manager. Not his nephew. Not the department heads who had spent the last 2 years pretending everything was fine. The new CEO stood in the middle of our operations floor, looking at a room full of people who suddenly seemed very interested in their computers. Then he looked at me. I was sitting 3 desks away from my manager, Daniel Price, who had spent the previous afternoon telling everyone that his nephew, Tyler, was the future of the department. Tyler was 26. He had been with the company for 6 weeks. I had been there for 9 years. Daniel had given him my promotion. Not the promotion I wanted. My promotion. The role I had been doing unofficially for 18 months. The role I had trained the team for. The role I had built the procedures for. The role that existed because I had spent years making sure the department did not collapse every time somebody made a bad decision. Daniel gave it to Tyler because Tyler was his nephew. Then, 2 months later, Tyler became acting department manager when Daniel was suddenly reassigned to strategic projects. And within 10 days, the whole place started falling apart. Invoices went missing. Clients stopped getting updates. A major contract renewal was almost missed. 3 staff members quit. 1 customer threatened to terminate their agreement. The weekly performance reports stopped matching the actual numbers. And the new CEO, Jonathan Reed, was standing in the middle of all of it asking the one question nobody wanted to answer. Why was the department only functioning when I was there? I knew exactly why. Because I had built half of what they were using. And because Daniel had made the mistake of believing that if he gave my title to his nephew, he could somehow take my work with it. He couldn't. The morning Jonathan asked that question, I was holding a resignation letter in my desk drawer. I had written it 2 days earlier. I had not submitted it yet. I was still deciding whether I wanted to leave quietly or whether I was finally ready to tell the truth. Then Jonathan turned to me and said, "Rachel, I want you to walk me through exactly how this department works." I looked at Daniel. He looked at Tyler. Tyler looked at his phone. And suddenly I understood something. I didn't need to fight for my promotion anymore. The new CEO was about to discover why I had been passed over. Before we go back to the beginning, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment your thoughts on the story. It really helps support the channel, and subscribing means you'll be here for more stories like this. Because to understand why the new CEO ended up standing in the middle of a failing department asking about the woman who had been denied the job, you have to go back 18 months. That was when the trouble really started. I worked at Harbor Line Distribution Services, a national logistics company that handled inventory, warehouse coordination, freight scheduling, and fulfillment operations for retailers and manufacturers. My department was called Client Operations. It was basically the place where promises met reality. Sales could promise a client that their shipments would move faster. Finance could approve a contract. The executive team could announce a new target. But if client operations didn't make it happen, none of those promises mattered. Our department handled everything after the contract was signed. Client onboarding, order tracking, escalation management, billing issues, SLA reporting, internal coordination, renewals, daily problem solving. If a shipment was late, we heard about it. If a client was angry, we heard about it. If a warehouse entered the wrong quantity, we fixed it. If a salesperson promised a delivery schedule nobody had checked, we were the ones explaining why it couldn't happen. It was not glamorous work, but it was important, and I was good at it. I wasn't the loudest person in the office. I wasn't the one who stayed late just so people would notice. I was the one who knew where everything was. If a client called with a problem from 6 months earlier, I could tell you which report had the answer. If someone asked why a contract was being billed incorrectly, I could usually trace the problem to the exact process failure. If a new employee joined the team, they learned the system from me. For years, I didn't mind. I liked being useful. I liked solving problems. I liked seeing a messy situation become manageable. I also had a manager I trusted. His name was Daniel Price. Daniel had been my boss for almost 7 years. When he first arrived at Harbor Line, I respected him. He was good at meetings. He knew how to speak to executives. He was comfortable in rooms where people threw around million-dollar numbers. I was better at the actual work, but I didn't see that as a competition. Daniel handled the politics. I handled the operations. It worked, for a long time. Then Daniel's nephew joined the company. His name was Tyler Price. Daniel introduced him as a sharp young guy with a lot of potential. Tyler was 26, confident, well-dressed, and very comfortable talking about things he hadn't actually done. His degree was in marketing. He had no logistics experience, no client operations experience, no warehouse background, no knowledge of our internal systems, but Daniel liked him immediately. Within his first week, Tyler was sitting in meetings I had spent years trying to get into. Daniel introduced him to senior leadership. People were told Tyler was there to learn the business. Fine. I had no problem with that. He could learn. We all started somewhere, so I trained him. Of course I did. I showed him the client dashboard. I explained the escalation workflow. I taught him how to read our weekly service report. I walked him through contract renewal timelines. I explained why certain clients needed extra attention. I even gave him my personal checklist for high-risk accounts. He copied everything into a notebook. On the third day, he asked me, "Do you actually use all of this?" I looked at him. "Yes," he laughed. "That's a lot of process. It's a lot of clients," he shrugged. "I guess." That should have been my first warning, but I wasn't looking for trouble. I had been at Harbor Line long enough to know that new people sometimes underestimated the complexity of the place. They usually learned. Tyler didn't. He was promoted too quickly to need to. 6 months after he joined, Daniel created a new role, Senior Client Operations Manager. The job posting looked almost exactly like the role I had already been doing. I had been leading weekly department meetings for over a year. I had been signing off on client escalation plans. I had been training supervisors. I had built the reporting structure. I had redesigned our onboarding workflow. And Daniel had told me multiple times that I was next in line. So when I saw the job posting, I assumed it was finally happening. I applied immediately. Daniel called me into his office the following afternoon. He looked uncomfortable. That should have been another warning. Daniel was good at politics, but he was terrible at bad news. He gestured toward the chair. "Sit down." I sat. He closed the door. I waited. Finally, he said, "I wanted to talk to you before the announcement." I smiled. "Okay. You know how much I value what you do." I did not answer. "That's why I want to be transparent with you." Still nothing. He rubbed his hands together. Decided to go in a different direction with the manager position. I stared at him. "Who got it?" He looked at me. Then he said it. "Tyler." For a moment, I genuinely thought I had misheard him. "Tyler, he has strong leadership potential. He's been here 6 months. 7, I stared at him. "Daniel, I've been running this department for the last 18 months. I know. I'm doing half the responsibilities in the job description already. I know. You told me I was next." He sighed. "Things change." I sat back. Something inside me went very still. "Did Tyler apply for the position?" Daniel hesitated. That was my answer. So this wasn't a competitive process. "Rachel, no, I'm asking a simple question." He looked annoyed now. "Tyler wasn't required to go through the same process." "Why? He's family." He said it casually, like that explained everything. I stared at him. Then I asked, "Did you really just say that?" Daniel frowned. "You know what I mean?" "Yes," I said. "I do." He leaned forward. "Rachel, don't make this personal." I laughed, not because it was funny, because he had just handed the promotion to his nephew and then asked me not to take it personally. I stood. He looked up. "Congratulations to Tyler," I said. "Rachel, I mean it." I walked toward the door, then I stopped. I turned back. "Who is going to train him?" Daniel hesitated. I nodded. "Right." Then I left. The announcement came 2 days later. An email went out to the department. "Please join us in congratulating Tyler Price on his promotion to Senior Client Operations Manager." His photo was attached. He was smiling beside the Harbor Line logo. The email described him as a rising leader with a strong understanding of client strategy. Strong understanding. He had been there 7 months. I had spent 9 years learning the department from the floor up. But there it was. Tyler was my new manager. And I was expected to train him. The first week I tried to cooperate. I really did. I gave him the onboarding plan. I walked him through the client portfolio. I explained the weekly reporting cycle. He nodded through everything like a student who already knew the answer. Then, after 2 days, he started changing things. He moved meetings without telling anyone. He changed the client escalation process. He removed 2 experienced coordinators from high-risk accounts and reassigned them to lower priority work because he wanted more junior staff to grow. I warned him. He ignored me. A week later, one of our largest clients, Meridian Outdoor Supply, complained about missed updates. Tyler called a team meeting. He blamed the coordinators. I said, the problem started when the escalation process was changed. He looked at me. We're not going to point fingers. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm telling you what changed. He smiled in that irritating way people do when they think they are being calm. Rachel, I'm the manager now. I know. So please follow the process I set. I looked at the others in the room. Nobody spoke. I nodded. Okay. The meeting ended. 3 days later, Meridian's account manager called me directly. Rachel, what's going on? I explained the change. She sighed. Can you just go back to handling it? I don't make that decision anymore. Can you talk to Daniel? I can. She was quiet. Then she said, we just need someone who knows what they're doing. That sentence stayed with me, not because of the client, because I realized my new manager had already made himself dependent on me. He had the title. I had the knowledge. He had authority. I had the relationships. He had the office. I had the system. For a while, we managed to keep the department functioning, mostly because I kept quietly fixing things behind him. Tyler would make a decision. I would catch the problem. Tyler would miss a deadline. I would call the client. Tyler would give the wrong report to finance. I would correct it. Tyler would promise a service level we couldn't meet. I would negotiate with the operations team to make it happen. Each time, I documented it. Not because I planned revenge, because I was beginning to understand that documentation was the only thing standing between facts and somebody's version of events. Then Tyler made the first major mistake. A client called North Star Retail, one of our biggest accounts. They were renewing a 3-year contract worth several $1,000,000. The renewal depended on a performance report showing that Harbor Line had met its service commitments. Tyler prepared the report. He sent it to the client. The numbers were wrong, not slightly wrong. He had used the wrong reporting period. The service level percentages looked better than they actually were. The client noticed immediately. I received a call from their operations director. She sounded furious. Rachel, why is this report different from the one you gave us last month? I said, let me review it. I opened the file. Within 5 minutes, I knew what happened. I called Tyler. What report did you send North Star? The renewal report. You used the wrong reporting period. He laughed. No, I didn't. Tyler, page 3 says Q3. The data is Q2. Silence. Then, can you fix it? I closed my eyes. Did you already send it to the client? Yes. I took a breath. Then you need to correct it. You do it. I'm not sending a corrected report under your name. His tone changed. Are you seriously refusing a direct instruction? No, I'm telling you the report needs to be corrected by the person who issued it. He hung up. 10 minutes later, Daniel called me. What is happening with North Star? Tyler sent them the wrong report. Can you fix it? Tyler needs to correct it. Rachel, no, what do you mean no? I mean I will help him fix it, but I will not take responsibility for a report I didn't send. Daniel was quiet. Then he said, you need to be more supportive of your manager. I almost laughed. Which manager? What is that supposed to mean? Nothing. Rachel, I'm warning you. Then put the warning in writing. He hung up. The North Star renewal survived. Barely. The client stayed because of the relationship I had built over 6 years. Not because Tyler fixed the problem. I did. But the company never officially recorded that. The internal report said the issue was resolved through management intervention. That phrase made me want to throw my laptop across the room. Management intervention. I had spent 2 days rebuilding the report, explaining the discrepancy to North Star, and getting the renewal back on track. Tyler attended one call, but the official story had changed. That was when I stopped expecting fairness. I started expecting evidence. I built a private work log, dates, client issues, who made the decision, who fixed it, what was communicated, what changed. Every week I updated it. Then I started copying important documents into the company's official project archive. I was not hiding anything. I was making sure there was a record. And slowly, a pattern appeared. Tyler could make decisions, but he could not run the department. He didn't know how. The team started coming to me privately. Rachel, what should I do? Rachel, Tyler changed this. Rachel, the client wants you. Rachel, can you review this before I send it? I kept telling them the same thing. Take it through your manager. But they kept coming back, not because I encouraged it, because Tyler didn't know the answers. He knew how to look like a manager. He didn't know how to be one. 6 months after his promotion, things got worse. Turnover increased. 3 experienced coordinators resigned. 1 transferred to another department. 2 clients complained directly to senior leadership. A major contract renewal slipped. Our response times doubled. And Tyler's solution was always the same. More meetings, more dashboards, more status updates. He loved reports that looked busy. I loved reports that actually showed what was happening. The difference mattered. Then Daniel announced another change. Tyler would become acting department manager during a restructuring period. That was when I finally asked Daniel to meet. I sat across from him in the same office where he had once told me I was next in line. "I need to understand something," I said. He looked tired. "What? Why am I doing this job without the title?" "You're not." "I am. You're supporting Tyler." "I'm running the operation," Daniel sighed. "Rachel, don't make this adversarial." "I'm not. I'm asking a question." He stared at me. Then he said, "Tyler is my choice." "I know, and I need you to support that." "I have." "Then continue." I looked at him. For the first time in 9 years, I realized he genuinely believed he had done nothing wrong. He thought giving his nephew my job was a management decision. He thought my continued competence was proof he had made the right choice. He thought I would keep carrying the department because I was loyal. He was wrong. I stood. "Okay," I said. He looked relieved. I don't think he realized what that okay meant. I went back to my desk and opened a new document. It was my resignation letter. I wrote it that night. I didn't submit it, not yet, because I wanted to see what happened if I stopped doing things that weren't my job. So I did. I stopped fixing Tyler's reports after hours. I stopped calling clients to cover his mistakes. I stopped answering questions that should have gone to him. I stopped rewriting his presentations. I stopped sitting in meetings to rescue him when he didn't know the answer. I still did my actual job, nothing more. Within 3 weeks, the department started struggling. A client escalation sat unanswered for 36 hours. A renewal presentation was sent late. A billing dispute went unresolved. A weekly report contained 3 errors. The team kept coming to me. I kept redirecting them. "Ask Tyler. Ask your manager. Send it through the proper process." It felt strange. Almost wrong. I had spent years being the safety net. Now I was watching the company discover what happened when the safety net was no longer there. Daniel noticed. He called me into his office. "What is going on?" I looked at him. "Nothing. The department is slipping. Talk to Tyler. You're being difficult." "No, I'm following the structure you created." He leaned back. "You know this place better than anyone." I stared at him. There it was. The truth he had spent 18 months avoiding. "Yes," I said. "I need you to help him." "I have. More." "No." Daniel's face tightened. "Why?" "Because you gave him the job." Silence. Then I added, "If you wanted me to do it, you should have given me the position." He looked angry. I didn't care anymore. For the first time, I wasn't trying to save the relationship. I was telling the truth. A month later, the company announced a change at the top. Harbor Line had been acquired by an investment group. The board was replaced. Our CEO resigned. And a new CEO was coming in. Jonathan Reed. I had never met him. Nobody in our department had. He arrived on a Monday morning without a big announcement. No press release inside the office. No speech. He just walked through the building with a small team and started asking questions. Real questions. Not "What are your priorities?" Not "How do we improve culture?" He asked, "Why is this account overdue? Who owns this process? Why is this report different from last month? Who approves this? Why are 3 people doing the same job?" The first 2 days, everyone was terrified. On Wednesday, he walked into our department. By Thursday, he asked Daniel for a department performance summary. By Friday, he asked Tyler to explain our escalation process. Tyler couldn't, so he called me. I was sitting at my desk when Tyler appeared beside me. "Rachel," he said quietly, "I need you in the meeting with the CEO." I looked up. "Why?" "Because he has questions." "Then answer them." He lowered his voice. "I need your help." I stared at him. "Your uncle gave you the job." His face changed. "Don't bring that up." "I'm not. You're being difficult." "No, I'm asking you to do the job you were promoted into." He stood there for a moment. Then he said, "Fine." He walked away. I went back to my work. 20 minutes later, Jonathan Reed walked onto the operations floor. He was younger than I expected. Maybe 40. Simple suit, no entourage. He looked at Tyler first. Then Daniel, then me. "Rachel Morgan." "Yes." "Can I borrow you for a few minutes?" I stood. Daniel immediately stepped forward. "Jonathan, we were just..." Jonathan raised a hand. "I'll speak with Rachel." Daniel stopped. We walked to a glass meeting room. Jonathan closed the door. He sat down. I sat opposite him. "I've been reviewing this department for 3 days," he said. I waited. "I have a question." "Sure." "Why does everyone come to you?" I almost laughed. "I don't know." "That's not true." I looked at him. He continued. "When a client has a problem, they ask for you." I said nothing. "When the reports are wrong, you fix them." Still nothing. When the team doesn't know what to do, they ask you. I crossed my hands on the table. I've been here a long time. That's not what I asked. I looked at him. He leaned back. Who actually runs this department? I answered honestly. Daniel is the department manager. That's a title. Tyler is the senior manager. That's another title. He looked at me. I'm asking who actually knows how this place works. I said nothing. Jonathan nodded slowly. Exactly. Then he asked the question that changed everything. Why does this department only run when you are here? I looked through the glass wall. Daniel was standing outside. Tyler was beside him. Both were watching us. I looked back at Jonathan. Because I've been doing the work. He paused. Tell me. And I did, not with anger, not with revenge, with facts. I explained the onboarding process I built, the escalation workflow, the weekly reporting system, the client renewal process, the training materials, the account history, the department metrics, the gaps, the staff turnover, the changes Tyler had made, the warnings I had raised, the mistakes I had corrected, the responsibilities I had been carrying without the title. Jonathan listened. He asked questions, specific ones. Who created this process? Who owns this report? Who approved that change? Who fixed this client issue? Who trained Tyler? Who had been responsible for the department during Daniel's absences? I answered. Every answer pointed back to me. After 2 hours, Jonathan closed his notebook. Do you have documentation? Yes. Can I see it? Yes. I gave him the official records. I did not give him my private notes. Not yet. I wanted to keep everything professional. He reviewed them that afternoon. The next morning, he called an emergency meeting with Daniel, Tyler, HR, and the regional operations director. I was not originally invited. Then Jonathan added me himself. We sat around a long table. Jonathan entered last. He placed a folder in front of him, then he looked at Daniel. I have a question. Daniel smiled. Of course. Jonathan looked at Tyler. Then at me. Why did Rachel Morgan not receive the senior client operations manager position? Daniel's face changed. Jonathan, we felt Tyler was a better fit for the role. Why? He demonstrated strong leadership potential. What leadership experience did he have? Daniel paused. He had strong strategic instincts. Jonathan nodded. Then he looked at me. How long had Rachel been performing the responsibilities? Daniel said. Not formally. Jonathan didn't move. I didn't ask formally. Daniel looked uncomfortable. About 18 months. Jonathan looked down at his notes. Who created the reporting process? Rachel. The escalation workflow? Rachel. The onboarding system? Rachel. Client renewal framework? Daniel hesitated. Rachel. Jonathan looked at Tyler. Did you create any of these? Tyler opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Jonathan nodded. Then he looked at Daniel. Why did you give the position to your nephew? Nobody breathed. Daniel's face went red. I object to that characterization. Why? Because it implies favoritism. Jonathan held his gaze. Was it? Daniel looked away. That was answer enough. The meeting continued. Jonathan asked why the department's performance dropped after Tyler took over. Daniel blamed staffing. Jonathan asked why staff left. Daniel blamed culture shifts. Jonathan asked why client response times doubled. Daniel blamed transition. Then Jonathan put a report on the table. Showed that while I was actively managing the department, our service level performance was the highest it had been in 4 years. After Tyler took over, it fell every month. Jonathan looked at Daniel. Did you know this? Yes. Why did you not intervene? Daniel glanced at Tyler, then back at Jonathan. We believed the team needed time. Jonathan nodded. Then he turned to me. Rachel, why didn't you leave? That question surprised me. I thought about it. Because I loved the work. Jonathan nodded. Even after you were passed over? Yes. Even after Tyler was promoted? Yes. Even after you were doing the same work without the title? I looked at him. I kept hoping the company would eventually recognize what was happening. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I think it has. Nobody spoke. Jonathan closed the folder. Rachel, I want to offer you the position of Director of Client Operations. Daniel stared at him. Tyler looked shocked. I sat completely still. Jonathan continued. The role will report directly to me during the restructuring period. You'll have authority over client operations, process design, and performance management. Your first task will be to assess the department honestly and decide what needs to change. I looked at Daniel, then Tyler, then the folder containing my old work. I thought about my resignation letter sitting in my desk. I had been planning to leave because I believed there was no future for me at Harborline. Now the CEO was offering me the position I had been denied, but the title wasn't the part that mattered most. It was the fact that I had not asked for revenge. I had simply stopped hiding the work I had already done. I looked at Jonathan. "I have one condition." He nodded. "Go ahead. I want the authority to make decisions without being undermined by people who don't have to live with the consequences." Jonathan smiled slightly. "That's why I'm offering you the job." I accepted. Tyler resigned 3 weeks later. Daniel was moved out of the department and eventually left the company. I never asked for that. I didn't need to. Once the new CEO started looking closely, the reasons became obvious. The department wasn't failing because Tyler was inexperienced. It was failing because the wrong person had been given responsibility, while the right person was expected to keep everything working anyway. The staff turnover slowed after the restructuring. 2 of the employees who had resigned asked to return. North Star renewed its contract. Meridian stopped escalating directly to senior leadership because they finally had a functioning management structure. The department's performance improved within a quarter, and for the first time in 9 years, my title matched the work I was actually doing. A few months later, I found the resignation letter I had written before Jonathan arrived. It was still saved on my personal computer. I read it once, then deleted it. I don't regret writing it. Sometimes writing the exit is what finally makes you honest about why you want to stay or leave. What I regret is how long I spent believing that if I worked hard enough, someone else would eventually do the right thing. My manager gave my promotion to his nephew because he thought my competence made me safe to overlook. He thought I would keep doing the work. He thought the title was enough to make Tyler legitimate. He thought the department would keep running because it had always run before. But businesses don't run on titles. People do. Systems do. Knowledge does. Relationships do. The day Jonathan walked into that department, he didn't care who had the most impressive title. He looked at what was actually happening. And once he did, he saw something Daniel had spent years ignoring. The person they passed over was the person holding the whole thing together. My manager gave my promotion to his nephew. Then the new CEO asked why the department only ran when I was there. I never had to expose Daniel. I never had to make Tyler look incompetent. I didn't need to. I simply stopped covering for them. And when the right person finally asked the right question, the truth was already sitting in the reports.